𝐶KIO2 and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back once again to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 23rd of January 2024. I'd like to extend a great welcome to all new viewers to this channel. This week, Bhante will be continuing on the subject of Maha Satipatthana. Bhante will be leading the homage to Buddha and taking a 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let us compose our mind, put our palms together and welcome Bhante. Over to Bhante.
Okay, thank you Terence for the intro. So we can start off by paying respects to the Buddha by bowing 3 times. First bow, second bow, third bow. And we start with the opening chant, the homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And the 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipada veramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna veramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā veramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Surameraya majjapamadaṭṭhāna veramani sikkhapaddaṃ samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Alright, so good evening to everyone, and tonight we are continuing with this topic, the Maha Satipatthana Sutta, the greater discourse on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And we've covered the mindfulness of the body already, so there are 4 types of mindfulness: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of the Dhamma, 4 things. So we've covered the body, and today we shall continue with mindfulness of feelings. So do the same format. I'll briefly read through, and along the way I'll just make some comments. So feelings. And how does a monk remain focused on feelings in and of themselves? There is the case where a monk, when feeling a painful feeling, discerns, I am feeling a painful feeling. When feeling a pleasant feeling, he discerns, I am feeling a pleasant feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he discerns, I am feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Okay, so in this particular slide, it mentions the first paragraph remain focused on feelings in and of themselves. So a person can actually be mindful of feeling only without being mindful of the body. So one good example is when we are doing this, the 4 sublime states, and the 4th one on equanimity, the sublime state on equanimity, we reflect on karma. Yeah, so any kind of unpleasant or pleasant feeling that arise, we reflect that these are karmas ripening. So it mentions there are 3 kinds of feelings. Yeah? First, it's painful feeling, the first one, and the second one is pleasant feeling, and the third one is this neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So we call it neutral feeling. So there are 3 kinds of feelings, and the whole idea is when these feelings appear, we need to be mindful of it, aware of it. So there is a way to learn to detach from these feelings. So sometimes some instructions will tell you, if you sit and experience pain, then be aware of the pain. And they kind of full stop from there, be aware of the pain. So they don't elaborate further. What should you do when you are aware of the pain? Because anybody can be aware of the pain, anybody go through pain. Those people who are suffering in poverty, those who are going through famine and war, they also feel pain, right? So what kind of reflection should we be doing when we sort of aware of this pain? Okay, so this is still not yet the reflection, and it's still identification. Okay, so the first point, when feeling a painful feeling of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a painful feeling of the flesh. When feeling a painful feeling not of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a painful feeling not of the flesh. Okay, so this point mentions there is a painful feeling associated with the 6 senses. With the nervous system, the body contact. So your nervous system, you have a painful feeling. So that is one kind of painful feeling. There's another kind of painful feeling which is not of the flesh. For example, things like thinking. If we chance upon a certain thought, a certain memory that is unpleasant in nature, so that is also, it can constitute as painful feeling. So if you have certain past memory of certain very intense, unpleasant kind of experience, then that would have this painful feeling. Yeah? So it doesn't affect your nervous system now, but maybe in the mind you think of maybe the dentist pulling out your teeth or something. So that is a kind of painful feeling in the mind. So it can appear not just in the flesh, but also not of the flesh. Okay, then the next one, when feeling a pleasant feeling of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a pleasant feeling of the flesh. When feeling a pleasant feeling not of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a pleasant feeling not of the flesh. So similarly, our nervous system, our body, we can experience pleasant feeling, and likewise also there's pleasant feelings not of the flesh. Whatever we think, whatever nice things we think of, the nice food, the nice tour, the nice sights. So all these will give rise to pleasant feeling as well. And the third point, when feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling of the flesh. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling not of the flesh, he discerns, I am feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling not of the flesh. So same thing, this is a neutral feeling. You can feel it from the body or not of the body. So these are the 3 kinds of feelings. So most of the time we will mention if a person is not mindful. If there is no reflection after this, a person will react with this greed, hatred, or delusion. So if a person experiences a painful feeling, and if they are not mindful or they do not apply right reflection, the mind will react with anger, aversion. So this is the first point. And the second point would be, if a person experiences a pleasant feeling, and if they do not have right reflection, they will generate greed. And the last one, this neutral feeling, would be delusion. So these are the three kinds of feelings leading to three kinds of cravings. So you have greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay, so the next slide, we'll be talking about the reflection. How to reflect in a way to sort of not cling onto the feelings. So if a person aware of the feelings, aware itself, not enough. Same with the mindfulness of the body. If we're aware of the body parts, not enough, because any surgeon can be mindful of the body, any bodybuilder can be mindful of the body. So we are not talking about this kind of mindfulness. So this is the kind of reflection we are doing. I just read through. In this way, he remains focused internally on feelings in and of themselves, or externally on feelings in and of themselves, or both internally and externally on the feelings in and of themselves. Okay, so this internally and externally probably is being covered by the previous slide. You have feelings of the body and feelings not of the body. So one way of interpreting is, internally would be the thoughts in the mind, and externally would be the body of the flesh. So you have internally, externally. Another interpretation would be, internally means your body, externally means another person's body. Just like when a person contemplates on the corpses, right? The previous few sessions we talk about mindfulness of the body. So the corpse is not your body, so it's external. So you have your own body, which is internal. So that is another interpretation. So it depends on the sensitivity of the mind. Some people can have, I don't know, maybe greater sense of EQ. They can know whether the other party is irritable or not irritable. So that is got to do with level of sensitivity. Alright, then the next point, or he remains focused on the phenomenon of origination with regard to feelings, on the phenomenon of passing away with regard to feelings, or on the phenomenon of origination and passing away with regard to feelings. So this is the contemplation part. So if you want to detach from feelings, then you need to reflect on this origination and passing away, arising and passing, basically impermanence. So this is the stock formula or the chorus of this entire sutta. So we will keep repeating this verse over and over, because if a person do not reflect on impermanence, then that kind of mindfulness is not really the Buddhistic kind of mindfulness. Or his mindfulness of that there are feelings is maintained to the extent of knowledge and remembrance, and he remains independent, unsustained by, not clinging to anything in the world. This is how a monk remains focused on feelings in and of themselves. Okay, so the whole idea is, or the end objective is, you need to have no more clinging. So that's the result. So if a person practices reflection of impermanence, they should reduce clinging. Right? If they do not practice impermanence, there are some people who teach this mindfulness. They'll tell you, when you eat, you must enjoy the food. The food so yummy, you must be aware of all the taste, so delicious. So that is, a kind of mindfulness. You are aware of the pleasant feeling, but it doesn't have the reflection of impermanence. So it doesn't create this detachment. So it doesn't reduce craving and clinging. And likewise, they tell, observe the surroundings, be aware of the surroundings, you know all the sights, all the scenery is so beautiful, and so on. So that is acknowledging pleasant feelings. But if you just stop there, then the mind will proliferate into craving and clinging. So there must be a reflection on impermanence for detachment to take place. Okay, next slide. Any questions so far? So we've covered the second foundation of mindfulness already, very fast. So the feeling is very short, just 3 kinds of feelings: painful, pleasant, and neutral. Okay, so now we are talking about the mind. Interestingly, feelings is also part of the mind. When we talk about the 5 aggregates, we have the form aggregate, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So 5 aggregates. So feeling onwards, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness is part of the mind actually. So they're considered as nama rupa. Nama means the mental aspect, and rupa is the material aspect. So rupa is the form, and you have the nama, which is the feelings all the way to consciousness. And so we are just now talking about the mind. So this is the definition of the mind, or states of mind to be more specific, mind states. And how does a monk remain focused on the mind in and of itself? There's the case where a monk, when the mind has passion, discerns that the mind has passion. So passion would mean greed. When the mind is without passion, he discerns the mind is without passion. So the mind with greed, a mind without greed. So the next point would be a mind with aversion, a mind without aversion. And the next point, a mind with delusion, and a mind without delusion. So the first 3 points mentioned here are more probably like emotions: greed, anger, and delusion. So these are more kind of like emotions. So in our meditation routine, we start off first with loving kindness. For example, we wish the hairs well and happy, we wish the nails well and happy, we wish the teeth, the skin well and happy. So to know or to identify the state of mind, whether it has passion or aversion or delusion, you compare before and after the reflection. You compare before and after reflection. So the reflection of loving kindness is to overcome aversion. So before you contemplate on loving kindness, we take it that the mind has some kind of aversion. So that's the state of mind with some aversion. And when we practice loving kindness, we wish all beings well and happy, or we wish the parts of the body well and happy, then the aversion is reduced, so we can take note of the mind without aversion. So how do you know the mind is without aversion? Normally we will talk about settling the mind to the baseline emotion. So the baseline emotion is a neutral emotion, and when the mind is calmed down and neutral, so that is a mind without aversion. So that is one way to identify the states of mind. And similarly, this mind of passion or without passion, so we use the reflection of impermanence. Right, so when we reflect on impermanence, it kind of tackles 2 things: passion and delusion. Passion and delusion. So delusion is the belief of permanence. You want things to remain the same forever. You want to be healthy forever. You want to live forever. You don't want to be sick forever. So that is a kind of delusion. Or if a person enters concentration, he wants to remain in that state forever. So that is a kind of delusion. So when we reflect on impermanence, it reduces 2 things. Reduces passion and reduces delusion. So you can compare the state of mind before and after. So before you reflect on impermanence, whatever emotion, whatever state the mind is, the intensity of the mind, so that is a mind with some form of craving and delusion. But after reflecting on impermanence, then this passion and delusion should reduce. Yeah, so that is the benchmark. And how to know these things reduced? We can, or the mind without passion. How do you know the mind's without passion or mind without delusion? So we'll talk more on the Dhammanusati, on the factors of enlightenment. So if a person actually triggers Dhamma joy, when they practice impermanence, they sort of trigger some form of joy. Through this detachment, the mind will eventually subside, will get more and more tranquil. So that is a mind without passion or without much delusion. So that is a kind of benchmark. Okay, so these are for the first 3 states, got to do with emotions. The next states onwards are got to do with spatial awareness. Got to do with cognitive functions, spatial awareness. So we have a restricted mind. You need to know the mind is restricted. Restricted means you focus on one small area. For example, like watching the breath. In breath meditation, if let's say a person is watching a small area, that's a restricted mind. We sort of give the mind a certain boundary, so that's restricting the mind. And whether the mind is scattered. Okay, so a scattered mind means the mind, no battery. The mind has no battery. The mind is, usually after a person enters samadhi, the mind is recharged, the mind is calm. So a scattered mind is if a person reacts with greed and anger through the senses, keep on reacting with greed and anger through the senses, then the mind will lose this battery, will lose power. So the mind will be more and more scattered. So that is a scattered mind. Yeah. So if a mind is very hectic, always busy planning, always worried, always frustrated, so that is a scattered mind. And you have this enlarged or not enlarged. So this is like our loving kindness practice. We wish all beings in all directions well and happy, so we are enlarging the area, we are enlarging the space. So that is enlarged mind. Or is it not enlarged? Then you have the surpassed or not surpassed. So surpassed would mean if a person has sort of reached certain level of realization. So if they understand the Dhamma, so they surpass this normal circular state of mind, so we call it surpassed. Or is it unsurpassed? So you need to know the difference in the states of mind. And you have concentrated or not concentrated. Right? So if a person enters samadhi, they must know they enter samadhi. Yeah? They must know which jhana, which concentration. So it's part of mindfulness. So some people say, insight have no concentration one. So which is not true. So in this Satipatthana, it includes concentration. And eventually, released mind or not released. So if a person has its mind liberated, they should know whether the mind is liberated or not yet liberated. So these are the different states of mind. And any questions at this point? No, I can understand. Okay, then we move on to the next slide. Okay. So the same thing. So this is the same chorus. You can know the mind internally or externally. So this is a very interesting point. Because the mind is your own mind. How can it have internally and externally? So probably for this interpretation, externally would be someone else's mind. Internally would be your own mind. Yeah? So this is the got to do with the level of sensitivity. But the next point, the second paragraph, will be the key emphasis to observe impermanence, arising and passing. So whatever state of mind, be it concentration or not concentration, scattered or not scattered, restricted or not restricted, one should always be mindful of impermanence. If you are not mindful of impermanence, you want the mind to stay in that forever, like a restricted mind. Some people want the mind to stay still, but they do not know the cause. So there's actually like a technique of wanting, or rather gathering the mind. So the unification of the mind, or the gathering of the mind at one point, is more like a byproduct. The emphasis is more on the reflection. So maybe next time we'll cover more on this anapanasati, this mindfulness of breathing. So it will mention all the steps. So there are steps required to calm down bodily fabrications, calm down the feelings, calm down the mind, and eventually the mind can unify and settle at one place. So if a person just wants the mind to be at one place, they want the result but do not know the cause, then it will result in suffering. So a lot of people, the more they meditate, the more frustrated they are. Right. So in this second point here, this is one of the causes. A person needs to keep reflecting on impermanence. Once a person keep on applying this right thought, it will reduce craving, reduce this clinging, and the mind will also kind of settle down. Okay, and the last point, or is mindful that there is a mind, is maintained to the extent of knowledge and remembrance, and he remains independent and sustained by not clinging to anything in the world. This is how a monk remains focused on the mind in and of itself. So a person can be mindful of the mind only without the body. So this one is a bit more advanced. So usually in our routine, we start off with mindfulness of the body, be aware of the 4 elements at least. Even when we are practicing the 4 sublime states, we are mindful of the 4 elements. So that is the basis, that's the foundation. The nama, rupa, these 5 aggregates coexist together. So in order to detect the mind, you need to also be aware of the body. You need to be aware of the 4 elements minimum. So once you kind of set or familiarize with the subtle elements that define the spatial boundary of the mind, then you can detect the mind. The movement of the mind, the location of the mind, very much dependent on the 4 element sensations. So that is where we are going in our meditation routine, and I shall end off here. If not, it's too heavy. We'll open the floor for Q&A. Any questions? Yes, anybody got anything you want to ask or clarify? No questions? Okay, then we go for a 5-minute break, so you can also slowly digest, and if you have questions after that, we still have time to ask some questions. Okay, then we can have a break now, and see you all back in 5 minutes time for the guided meditation. Okay, if not, I assume everyone is back, so we can start. So we find a comfortable posture. Maybe we can mute the mic. Okay, find a comfortable posture, make sure the back is upright and the rest of the body relaxed. So the first thing we're going to do is visualize the parts of the body, the impurities of body meditation. And when we think of all the hairs of the head, hairs of the body, we are going to wish them well and happy. So when we visualize the hairs in the mind, we naturally will have feelings. If the hairs appear to be nice looking, beautiful looking, and if you're not mindful, then this pleasant looking hair, or when we feel pleasant about it, we'll develop greed. And if we find the hair unpleasant, it's ugly or messy, then we will develop aversion if we're not mindful. So what we are doing now is intentionally wish the hairs well and happy. So that is to overcome this aversion. So you can take note of the state of mind before and after the reflection. What's the emotion like? So when you think of a new patch of hair, then you're going to wish it well and happy. New patch of hair, well and happy. So the phrasing of the wish is also very important. We are not going to wish my hair. So you don't add the I, the my, and the me inside the phrasing. We are just going to wish the hairs well and happy. Because we are ultimately going to talk about detachment. If you add the I inside and the me inside, then you start to cling. This becomes my hair. Yeah? Very, very hard to let go. So we keep repeating. New patch of hair, wish it well and happy. New patch of hair, wish it well and happy. So the more you generate right thought, then this craving of aversion should reduce. So that is the state of mind with reduced or without aversion. And you can see how it settles down. And now we're going to reflect on impermanence. So all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the hairs growing and falling, many, many cycles. So these are the hairs internally, in our own mind. And we keep looping this cycle. No need to over-imagine, don't need to over-dramatize. Just hairs growing and falling. Keep looping this process. And as we keep reflecting on impermanence, we can observe this sense of clinging. Are you more attached or more detached after this process? So if it feels more lighter or more joyful, means you're on the right track, or more peaceful, you're on the right track. If it gets more tense, more stressful, more anxiety, means something's wrong with your reflection. Okay, then we can move on to the next part of the body, the nails, fingernails and toenails, and we're going to wish them well and happy. And all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the nails growing and falling, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe this sort of clinging, whether are we more attached or more detached. Okay, then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? Next on, we can think of the teeth, or the teeth inside the mouth. May they be well and happy. Okay, and all these teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the teeth growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe this clinging. Are we more attached or more detached throughout the process? Then we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death? So next on, we can think of the skin. We are going to wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. Every patch of skin, may they be well and happy. And all this skin go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the skin growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe this sense of clinging. Are we getting more attached or detached throughout the process? Then we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death? Okay, then we can move on to the next phase of meditation. We don't need to visualize anymore. We can feel the sensations of the four elements, the earth, fire, wind, and water elements. So earth represents any hard or soft sensations, fire is hot and cold, wind is fast, slow movements, and water is moist or dry. So using the body, or rather we confine the area of attention within the body. Yeah? So whatever sensation you detect, we are going to wish them well and happy. So there is no need to deliberately control, no need to generate any sensation. We let them appear naturally by themselves. So whenever they appear, we deliberately make peace with them. We wish them well and happy. New sensation appear, may they be well and happy. So this one doesn't require imagination. Everything is real-time evidence. Okay, so the more you generate right thought with every sensation, the mind will also settle down before and after this mind with or without aversion. So using this state of mind, we take note of this emotion. We call this the baseline emotion and the restricted form of loving kindness. Okay, so now we are going to cultivate this boundless loving kindness, and we are going to wish all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. So this is expanding the mind. So this expansion doesn't require you to push or exert or force, just a gentle wish. We let the mind extend naturally by itself. However far you wish to extend doesn't matter. The whole idea is not to create any form of strain or tension. Okay, and in that widened sphere of attention, we take note of the sensations as well, the elements, whatever sensation that appear inside the body or outside the body, near or far, we are going to wish all beings well and happy. So there's no need to visualize, there's no need to imagine how all sentient beings look like. We use the non-discrimination approach. All beings are made of these particles, these elements. Whatever sensation appear, then we wish all beings well and happy. Okay, and if you meet all the conditions, you have all the right thought, right effort, you keep repeating, wish all beings well and happy, then you may activate this right concentration. So to know whether you have a concentrated mind or not, if there is any increment of this joy and happiness compared to the neutral baseline emotion, then that would be the indicator of the first level of concentration. And regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing all beings well and happy. Any form of stillness is a form of delusion. So we do not want to get stuck in any state of mind, any sensation. We do not just stop there. We keep on turning the Dhamma wheel. We keep on wishing all beings well and happy. Okay, then we're going to add some insight, some wisdom to this routine. We're going to reflect on impermanence. So we are doing the same observation of the sensations, and we change the labeling to impermanence. or any word or phrasing associated with impermanence, you can call origination and passing, arising and passing, anicca, inconstant. Just pick your favorite and keep repeating. So whatever emotional states, you just take note it's impermanent, keep on reflecting impermanence. And whatever joy or peace, is it the mundane kind of joy or peace, or is it surpassed kind of joy or peace? It means beyond the mundane kind of joy or peace. Okay, if the joy and happiness start to disappear, one may experience a neutral and refreshing kind of emotion. We call that equanimity. So this is a combination of both the jhanic equanimity and also the vipassana kind of equanimity. So regardless of what you experience, keep on turning the Dhamma wheel, keep on reflecting on impermanence, and do not stop. Okay, then we can switch to the second sublime state, which is compassion. So for compassion, we wish all beings may they be free from suffering. So that is also the theme of this mindfulness. It is mentioned we have to overcome the greed and distress in this world. So using the non-discrimination approach, all beings will face distress as long as they cling on to the aggregates, they cling on to the sensations. So whenever we detect any sensation, we can wish all beings may they be free from suffering. So it is very easy to cling on to the sensation. Once we start dramatizing, that means we already get pulled in by the mind, pulled in by the aggregates, pulled in by the sensations. Pulled in by clinging and craving. So the whole idea is not to overthink, as in over-dramatize. Only thing we deliberately think is to wish all beings free from suffering. So the evidence is the elements. Whatever sensation appear, we use that as the foundation, as the grounding. And every time a sensation appear, may all beings be free from suffering. So that's the reality check. Once we do not have this reality check, means the mind is daydreaming, either over worrying or fantasizing or whatever. Okay, and if the conditions are right, you have all the right thought, right effort, everything, it will trigger this right concentration. So how do you know you have a concentrated mind? If let's say that concentration feels joyful, the conventional kind or the mundane kind of compassion is very sad or sorrowful, whereas the concentrated kind of compassion is quite happy or joyful. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting that all beings, may they be free from suffering. Okay, then we add some wisdom, some insight, and we're going to reflect how to overcome this suffering, which is to shake all this clinging with impermanence. So we keep on observing the elements changing and we keep labeling impermanence. Okay, and similarly, if all the joy and happiness start to subside, one may experience a kind of blank or spacious kind of experience. So we call that the perception of infinite space. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on impermanence. Okay, then we move on to the third sublime state, which is this appreciative joy. And we're going to rejoice in the accomplishments of all beings. Using the non-discrimination approach, all winners or losers, as long as they go through the process, they'll at least gain some kind of life experience. So the lowest common denominator would be the moment-to-moment sensations. So whenever we detect any sensation, we rejoice with all beings. Okay, and if all the conditions are right, you have all the right thought, right effort, everything, one may trigger this concentration of the third level, denoted by the emotion of happiness. And the same thing regardless of what you experience, keep on rejoicing with all beings. And we're going to add some insight, some wisdom. So all beings will eventually be separated from what they have achieved. So similarly, all these sensations, they don't stay with us 24/7. So we keep on reflecting how they arise and pass away. And if the joy and happiness start to subside, unlike previously the blank kind of experience, this time around one may experience a sense of fullness, as though the sense of self has merged or encompassed the entire surroundings. So we call that the perception of infinite consciousness. So regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on impermanence. Okay, then we move on to the fourth sublime state, which is equanimity. And this time round we are reflecting on karma. All beings, we reap what we sow. And this time we just observe the here and now sensations. Any pleasant feeling arise, and that's due to good karmas ripening. Any unpleasant feeling arise, and that's due to bad karmas ripening. Any neutral feeling appearing, then that's due to neutral karmas ripening. In short, all experiences are conditioned by karma. So if the mind is more accepting of karma, then one may experience this neutral and refreshing kind of emotion again, called equanimity, associated with the fourth level of concentration. Okay, and before we conclude the session, due to time constraint, same gentle reminder: in all activities, always be mindful of either the sublime states or mindful of impermanence. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session. Informally, still can generate right thought. Alright, the Anumodana. Akasatha ca Bhumata Devanaga Mahitika Punyang tang anumoditva Cirang rakantu loka sasanang Etavata ca amhihi Sampadang punya sampadang Sabbe deva sabbe bhuta Sabbe sata anumodantu Sabba sabbati siddhya. Dedication of merits to the departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and we end off by bowing 3 times to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. And the third bow.